One time my class had to hold presentations about an economic question relevant to companies we interned at. Most people went to places like insurance companies, grocery stores or startups, but I decided to intern at a micro-tech company. I thought I'd just make a small PowerPoint and try to present it with as much confidence as I could. But then our teacher told us that we could do something creative to spice up the presentation. Like, generate an animation with AI. I'm not kidding, that's the exact example she gave us. And it was at that moment that I knew, I'm gonna animate this by myself. And it's going to be so cool. And then I was hit by the realization that realistically I had 1 weekend's worth of time left till the presentation date. But I worked overtime and actually managed to finish the animation just in time for the presentation. On the day, most people were just holding regular PowerPoints and, in some cases, sales pitches. And when it came time for me to present, I showed the class this. Yeah, I kinda muted the audio before exporting the animation. Whoops. Anyway, the next week I presented the actual unmuted animation. Welcome to my presentation to answer the question, is it economical for the Misplaced Institute to switch from silicon wafers to gallium nitride wafers? Now that might seem like a lot, so allow me to explain the context. The Misplaced Institute uses wafers to make different microelectrical components. Those wafers I mentioned earlier aren't the normal maple syrup ones, they look like this. They're around 725 micrometers or thinner plates that are made of semiconductors, and are used as bases for electrical components like chips. One of the most commonly used semiconductors for wafers is silicon. Silicon has been used for wafer production for decades and is the cheapest wafer material by far. 6-inch silicon wafers cost around $20 or $60 each. An equivalent gallium nitride wafer, however, costs around $1,000 to $2,000, 30 to 50 times as much as the silicon ones. Why is it that anyone would even consider switching to far more expensive gallium nitride wafers then, I see you asking. As some of you may have already guessed, it's due to the quality of the material. There's especially two factors that influence the quality of an electrical component: the resistance and the breakdown voltage. Electricity within conductors is slowed because of resistance, and simultaneously some of the electricity is converted into heat. Because of this, the efficiency of the circuit is reduced, and you need to use more energy to achieve a desired result, which increases the power bill and drains your wallet. You want an electrical component to have a low resistance to make sure you don't experience substantial problems in this department. The breakdown voltage describes the point at which an electrical component is destroyed due to excessive voltage. Especially components used in devices or facilities that require a lot of electricity, like AI data centers, require a high breakdown voltage for safety and reliability. When materials have low resistance, the breakdown voltage is also low. When one has a high breakdown voltage, it also has a high amount of resistance. You need to find a good balance for high quality parts. Now let's get back to our materials, silicon and gallium nitride. On a diagram with resistance on the Y and breakdown voltage on the X-axis, you'd think that a much used material like silicon would lie somewhere around here, maybe here, but it actually lies somewhere around here. Due to its low breakdown voltage and high resistance, silicon is actually pretty inefficient. Gallium nitride, on the other hand, is placed around here. It's a far better option for wafers. But gallium nitride has its own problems. Gallium nitride is grown on substrate wafers, and this process is prone to errors. Additionally, the gallium nitride layer on the substrate needs to be thin, so as to prevent cracks caused by excessive gallium nitride. That means that a gallium nitride wafer is far thinner than a silicon wafer, and needs to be treated with far more care. Because of this, more precise tools are needed to properly handle these wafers. These tools can cost upwards of $1 million. The Misplaced Institute would need to devote a lot of resources and time on this switch to gallium nitride wafers. However, there's still more pros to a switch to gallium nitride. The Misplaced Institute is a research facility and is paid by companies like Intel, as well as the government sometimes, to develop new technologies and get them mass producible. Silicon technology has been researched for over 80 years, and even though it is possible for new discoveries to occur, it's far more important for microtechnology companies to develop new technologies like gallium nitride. The high error rate of gallium nitride can be ignored, since the misplaced institute doesn't mass-produce components but merely prototypes them, meaning that only a single chip needs to work for the product to be considered a success. So to recap, it makes sense for the misplaced institute to switch from silicon wafer processing to gallium nitride wafer processing, because not only is gallium nitride of higher quality than silicon, but it also makes the research at the institute far more interesting for clients, which in turn leads to higher profits after the implementation of gallium nitride processing. However, this implementation is only possible if the institute were to receive a lot of funding, for example from the government. If you're still here after that, first of all, thank you, but also don't expect any more of these types of videos. This was a one-off because I wanted to find some use for this presentation. And while you're here, why not consider subscribing? Anyway, I wanted to release a different video for this month, but because of a ton of exams, I was only able to finish this one in time.